Mr. Cage, the people miss you, man. And welcome back to Lucas Tigers and Bronze. It's gonna be a fun episode, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Unless, do you have any announcements, anything that you want to
Sweet.
say?
Oh, I mean, now that they're posting out there, and you posted on the story, got a lot of people saying, "Oh, look at that, looks nice. The sky behind you is nice." People didn't know I was anywhere, which is good to hear. I mean, no drop off in the content. People loving it. We're getting still a lot of great listens. Give a lot of shout outs and love to DPZ with the collector series. Love that stuff. People come in and they try to copy it now, and there's only one original. There's only one Lucas Tigers, only one DPZ with the collector series. If you haven't listened to it, take a listen. It's good stuff.
You've been getting a lot of good
Yeah,
feedback.
motorcycle.
Don't worry about it. People will be
Right.
fine, man. They know the brand, they know the content. If they don't like it, they could go elsewhere. It's that simple. But we love you guys anyway. You got a lot of good feedback on you with the palm tree and the story.
Yeah, you posted a picture. I feel like, oh, look at that. He's smoking a stove. He's having fun. He's doing a little vacation. It's like I got a couple like role reversal. Usually Andrew's the one with the palm trees behind him and all. So it's fun. People sending me nice like good for you to
People,
unplug.
people
People want me to
remember.
relax.
People remember the palm trees. I don't even remember Mexico and Tulum. It feels so
Yeah.
long ago.
And it wasn't. I mean, it's crazy to think of. I mean, the last time I was on vacation on an island, I was actually in the same place, was the week before COVID. It was February basically
The
of
last time you were
2020
there in
at this
Aruba, the
place.
same
Yeah,
resort,
yeah, same
because
resort. And
you
I,
guys,
I went back
you
home
guys,
and I brought COVID with me, basically.
you're not that important. Cage is a creature of habit. You went back the same. Did you stay in the same room?
No, I don't pick the room. I mean, there's a lot of rooms here, but I am a creature of habit. I like what I like. You know this. This place, I got Cuban cigars within 50 yards of where I am. There's 50 restaurants. There's a little convenience store that lets me grab as many of these as I want. Boom, boom,
Better.
boom.
The Coke there is better.
So it's funny. It doesn't say zero. It's not called Coke Zero. It's just called Coke No Sugar. And the first time I saw a Coke with the red label, like Diet Coke No Sugar, with the red label that Coke Zero has now, was actually here, many years ago, and it
Do
became
you know
Coke
why
Zero.
that is?
You tell me.
America has very. We like to confuse and entertain our audience while marketing to them. Where in
Oh,
other
that's you. That's
countries,
not America. That's you.
it's not me. I'm a straight shooter. Like, they can't say, "Hey, this is a program for fat asses." They're gonna say, for people that are looking to, change their lifestyles and get in shape and round out those curves and put on some muscle. Here's a program for you. In other
Yep.
countries, their marketing is direct, like, "Hey, you have X problem. Here's Y solution." In
All
America,
right.
we like to fluff it up, make people feel good about, not Coke no sugar, it's Coke Zero. It's
Yeah.
0 calories.
Coke Zero. Zero from zero to
So
hero.
we need you to weigh in. So this is a great conversation we're having with the content team, and this will be
Oh, I'm
fun.
excited.
So I'll get to the destination. I'll kind of backpedal from there as to how we got here. So
Okay.
Will says, I asked him a question like, would you rather have this
Would you
card,
rather?
a,
I like
a
it.
silver PSA 10 of Nikola Jokic,
Mhm.
or a light blue
Excuse me.
Prism PSA 9 and a PSA 8 silver? The exact same price. Both. So I have two deals lined up, and you're talking about my story post. I put a post on my story today buying Jokic, specifically this card. It was either his Prism Silver rookie or his Prism Light Blue. I know exactly what I want, one of those two. And I have two deals literally lined up. One is a PSA 10, which someone offered me $2,400, okay, for the silver,
Okay.
or the light blue PSA 9 and the silver PSA 8.
Okay. So, couple quick questions. How much does a gold go for?
The gold hasn't sold in, and that, you remember I posted that story. The gold hasn't sold since, I believe it was September 2020,
Did
$36,000.
you message Chris Hoge
No,
and get some info from him? Because that, by the way, if I were starting to buy some Jokic stuff, I would. He probably has several
you're going on
of
record
the
with this
golds.
advice. This is the
Yeah.
first thing you'd recommend.
Well,
Message Chris Hoge.
if you know a super collector, they're gonna know the market better than anybody. 100%. This is what the hobby's about, man. If you know a super collector who's out there who collects a certain guy, and I can't think of any other Joker super collectors, he definitely is the first one that comes to mind. I'd message him and say, okay, one, what's a gold worth? I know you're probably hoarding them. You know anybody who may have one that, one for sale or one that's available. I was like, go ahead, please.
One PSA 10 gold.
Okay, but maybe you don't need it for a gold. I don't need a 10. You know what I mean? It's great that there is a 10, but for gold, I don't need a 10. You're talking about nines and eights. Like I'd be curious if maybe somebody who's in the know might be able to tell you, okay, PSA 10 silver is 2,500. Is at 2,400, right? The same price for an eight and a nine of a light blue nine and an eight silver. And then, all right, a 10, a PSA 8. I know there's a gold 8 out there. This guy has it, but, he knows I'm a super collector. He wants 10 grand for it. He wants 20 grand for it, or whatever it is. Well, you know what kind of, what the going rate is and the whole deal. Maybe he wants 12 grand. Who the heck knows? I don't know, but I'd like to know that and kind of value.
So let's pause. So what you're saying, step one is go to a super collector who knows the market and find out what the card that's the tier above is selling for.
Yeah.
Even though it's not listed, because he probably knows whose pockets it's
yeah.
in.
And then
Okay.
second, because you're now, so I think you probably want a light blue 10, right? I think you probably want a light blue 10, right? But you
Correct.
don't have a light blue 10 in front of you. So you've now taken a step back and gone with light blue 9 and silver 8. Making that phone call, I don't know if it's an anti-pride thing or making that, we don't make phone calls anymore. I just showed my age, but sending that
Not an
message,
anti-pride thing.
perhaps he might
21
even tell
PSA
you,
10 light blue.
right,
21
but
PSA
maybe
10s
he
light
tells
blue.
you, I went down this road myself and I wound up with this one, this one. But here's an interesting thing: the optic gold. Well, there was an optic that year. The select golds from that year are only 3 grand. So if you're going to be looking to spend $2,500 and you're already kind of taking a step back from what you really want the PSA 10 light blue. You're already taking a step back to a PSA 9 light blue or a PSA 8 silver. Why don't you go with a gold select? That's a more desirable one, and it's similar in price. Like maybe that it opens a door for you that you weren't there. And guys, this is not just about the Joker and Chris Hoge and Andrew's current search. This is for anything. I mean, the hobby is full
I
of
did
this.
not think about messaging Chris Hodge.
But I mean, you can, and think about what door that might open. He may be able to turn around and say, you know what, people don't realize this one. This is a cool card, and the light blue. Maybe he's thought about this, and maybe he was like, I'm going to corner the market on the light blues. But you know what, light blue is not every year, and light blue is not something people search for. Light blue might not be the one that people want to get, and maybe he's got some
Do
inside
you
info. Who the heck
so
knows?
do you do this across the
I
board for
do,
cards that you
I
buy?
do, I do, I
Why
do.
does the hobby do this? Why do you go and
So
ask other people?
well, because people have you ever heard don't like reinvent the wheel? Right? You ever heard that one, right? I mean, somebody else invented the wheel, right? And while the hobby is full of your own journeys, I try not to reinvent the wheel also. And if someone has already done a lot of the price discovery and someone has already done this stuff, and I believe is someone the hobby, is willing to share that information with the hobby, is willing to like, okay, yeah, this I exactly where you are. I remember being there when I first opened up my thought process on I'm going to start PCing the Joker and blah 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 blah. And he's going to tell you this is. But by the way, why don't you look at this in this price range? I've started to pick up these. I know somebody who has one, or I'd sell you one of mine because I'm looking at upgrade.
Before this train derails, the
Yeah.
cage train of Aruba is moving as fast as that boat the other day. How I have two questions in mind, but one main one, and then we can go to the second one. How do I know he has my best interest in mind? So I'm asking this other person for advice on a card that he probably wants himself.
It's a
How
good
do I know
question.
that he has my best
It's a
interest in
good
mind?
question. I start things off with the assumption that people are going to act in the hobby in your best interest. I just start off with that assumption. You don't give many opportunities to people to do that. Obviously, if I would tell you it's going to be a lonely hobby and probably not the best place for you if your
You
assumption that
miss
people are.
not
No,
from
I know what
the
you're
heart
saying.
standpoint. I know what everyone has a good heart. I'm saying from the standpoint that we are also when you're trying to make a deal with someone, we always talk about win-win
Yep,
and all that, but
yep.
there
Who
is a
won
bit
this
of
deal?
adversarialness to it, at least underlying. There's
So I would
still
go
that.
into it, especially with this particular scenario, knowing that Chris Hoge is collecting Joker one of ones and gold 10 prisms, and he is in probably a different type of collection stratosphere than you or I would be
Okay.
on Joker. So I wouldn't even view him as competition for the same deal on these
Okay.
things. I guess you could argue that you know maybe he'd want you to pay more for the lower stuff because that inflates the prices of the higher stuff. I just assume, for the most part, that people in the hobby are just happy that one, someone else is going to start collecting the same thing that they're collecting because that's always going to be a good thing. And two, at least I know with me, people ask me about stuff all the time, and I try to share what I've learned about different cards, different stuff in the hobby, and try to be as honest with you as I can. So yeah, I mean, but it's a valid point, and not
So
everybody's going to. But
let me
listen,
tell
you
you what
say,
our
do I
team
do it
said.
myself?
Yeah.
But just before you do that, and I'm curious what the team said. And I'll pick, by the way, with the options given to me. I'm in a
Maybe an
vintage
hour
group.
later.
Somebody added to me to a vintage group that I don't really enjoy being in, to be honest. I may actually exit quietly as the couple of thousand people just heard it.
Yeah.
They talk a lot. The vintage guys. If I'm
I
saying you
was
talk a
just
lot,
added to a vintage group, and I might leave it after
exit.
publicizing it on
Not
our
enjoying it.
podcast.
Not
Nice.
enjoying it as much as I thought because it's a
I'm
lot of
sure
talk.
they're
But what
listening.
I have learned, some of them listen. I think what I've learned is Jackie Robinson. People overpay for his cards, and I'm curious, why I haven't added one recently. I haven't added. I don't own a Jackie Robinson card, so that's not me puffing up like, wow, Jackie Robinson's cards are fantastic. The whole deal. I'm sure they are. People really, really, there's like a segment of people who really think Jackie Robinson's cards are still undervalued, even with the crazy absurd run up that they've
They're
had.
gonna
And I
teach
think
about him in schools, Cage.
we talked about that, and but it was good for me to be in that group and hear these folks talk about Jackie Robinson because it explained to me why I haven't picked one up yet. Because here I am thinking, oh, I'll buy that one. It'll be decent. I can pick this up for a decent price. Nope. Then all these old guys are the reason why I'm not able to buy Jackie Robinson because they are. But these people collect Jack Robinson. I have any questions about him? I ask. They know the answer. They know about weird ones from Japan that are error cards. They know about weird ones from 1947. They know all the stuff. You can learn a lot from these people, and trust me, they are more than willing to share their
Okay.
information. On your thing, honestly, I would go with the PSA 10 of the silver because the 9 light blue, it's great if you're getting one for a 10. I would take the 10 because it's only 21 tens. The light blue out of 199 and PSA 9 is not rare enough for me to think that there's anything great. And a silver and an 8, I might as well not have a great
Take a
card.
poop on it. I love
Yeah.
this. This is amazing. So what I said. Okay, so our team.
Cheers.
Let me. I'm scrolling up. I'm scrolling up. I'm scrolling up.
So you had time to do that while I was just giving my soliloquy there when you're making fun of my words. You want me to talk more and give you
Nah,
time to
people can
find?
wait.
No, it's instant gratification, man. This is the way it works. I am happy to be talking here. I miss talking sports and
So
cards
what
with
the
you.
team said, Will specifically said, I usually opt for higher true rarity than condition rarity.
Okay. But
Your generation,
mhm,
Cage,
me,
I
old
believe
people.
they never had true rarity
That's
because there was
true.
one rookie card. There's
Mhm,
one Jackie Robinson card,
mhm.
right?
Yep.
You didn't have the Jackie Robinson 52 tops and then
Yep.
the black version and then the gold, and you had to decide. All you had
Yeah.
was that version, and
That's
then
it. That's it.
you eye appealed it, and you said, I like this SGC3 more than this PSA 2.5. It
Yep.
just pops for me, and you do it that way, right? So you
Yeah.
guys were always condition rarity over true rarity, which was like the parallels. And that was always the way until PMGs came. And then there was a fork in the road where one group went with the I love out of 10, I love out of 100, I love how many are out there, card rarity, versus there's
Hmm.
still people who buy Scoring Kings Jordans. That's not a rare card, but
No.
it's rare in a PSA 10.
Hmm.
And that segment split. And it's funny how even now, using
Hmm.
that fundamental approach to kind of how you buy, how you think about the market, collect, invest, doesn't matter. You still apply that to the 2015 silver Jokic.
Correct. Because I don't think that the light blue is a rare enough card to matter. Now, if you're talking about something that's
Maybe.
under 100 or under 50, you're talking about, I think there's a Mojo Prism that year, which I think is out of 25. You're talking about something like that, I might have had a different answer. But you
Yeah, but
didn't.
Cage,
What you
this is where
said
it gets
was,
really good.
mhm,
People don't desire the mojo.
that's true. And they don't.
So,
I don't think
so
they desired a light blue.
are you sure? Have you studied the Jokic
No, I
market at
haven't.
all?
I have
Gotcha,
not
gotcha.
studied it at all, but I know light blue is not exactly a card that many people go after.
If,
You
if you
know?
don't know the market, it's not a big deal. I could tell you. I
Yes,
spent
please.
today and yesterday to trying to find how many people will at least present or try to sell me their light blues.
Yes.
Facebook group with 40,000 followers or whatever
Hmm.
group members, NBA,
Hmm.
Bowman Chrome and High Roller group. I posted cross posted on Facebook, cross
Does
posted on
Joker have
IG.
many Bowman Chromes?
It's like it's called Bowman Chrome and a High Roller group.
I'm
I
glad you
went
did
every
research. I didn't, but you wound up doing
I went
research in
every
2 days
single
in Bowman Chrome. I mean, how much is it? Does
well.
he have a light blue
There's
Bowman
a group
Chrome?
called it's a High Roller group. Then there's Wax Hub is another one. There's Asian Cards is another one run by
My
Veriswap and
favorite.
Raymond Lee. So I posted in just about every single group. I posted to our story and I reposted on Lucas Tiger's Bronze.
Yep.
Three blues popped up. Three.
So people are willing to sell you blues.
No, very little blues available. Very small supply.
So how did
If
they
out
pop
of
up?
199, only three people are willing to even part with those cards, doesn't
Right.
that tell you that there is where there was silver, probably 20 silvers, 25 silvers were
Oh, okay. So people offered silvers,
yeah,
and
for
people
sure.
offered blues. Okay. All right.
Blues
Fine.
were very hard to get, very hard to get. Even people that I make offers on eBay haven't responded, and these are pretty realistic offers within the last comp. To me, what that tells me is like, the float, the available supply. We look at the
Yeah.
card ladder, there's 800 silvers graded, 155 light blues. Okay, blues
Okay.
are about a fourth, a fourth more rare, silvers, four times.
So how many greens did they offer you? Because I'm going to use your line of reasoning, right? Okay. Well, if only three
Greens
light
are,
blues got
I
offered.
was actually thinking about a green because a green's like a $400 card and there's very few greens from that
How
game.
many of them got offered?
Two.
The people.
And they were all both nines.
So less greens were offered than the light
Yep.
blues, but the green is cheaper. But using your rationale, because you comb the
It's one
desert
data point. You could
between.
try to discredit the theory by
No,
playing
no. How many
the
flash
fool.
prisms? How many flash prisms were offered to you?
A lot, a lot.
Really?
Yeah, a
I
lot
mean,
of
that
shit.
would be weird. A lot. So I would take one of those. There's only
I was
31 of
thinking about it.
those. The flash prisms.
I, I was
It's
thinking
only
about it,
50% more, and
but
not a
but
crazy amount more in the nines.
right. But instead of playing the devil's advocate for the sake of playing devil's advocate,
Orange
what I will
waves.
do is throw your words right back in your face and say
Yes,
you
do
have
it.
to buy the stuff that everybody wants. So
So how do we
nobody
know
wants
the
the
blue
green.
wants? How do we know the blue people want the blue, the light blue?
I think there's a lot of compelling evidence after studying the Jokic market that people really desire the blue, and the rest of the stuff, the silvers, are more in the hands of flippers. And then there's people who bought, orange wave, green, and shock. No one cares about those. It's just the reality.
Okay. I mean, listen, that works for me. I mean, here's the best part about the last couple of minutes of going through this. You know which one you want because
Yeah,
you wouldn't be arguing for the light blue if you didn't want the light blue.
yeah,
I mean, it's clear. It's sort of like sometimes tell people,
for
like
sure.
flip a coin in the air. You know what I mean? Flip a coin and you'll know what you want. Call it when it's in the air, right? I mean, that's kind of where we go with it, right? So,
But it's a fun exercise, man. I love going through this stuff and truly kind of being in the weeds, in the dirt, learning it and sharing kind of with our community what's going on. And another fun thing that I learned about the Jokic community is, man, they have diamond hands. They don't want to give up their cards, silver, gold, anything. Like it's really hard to pry these cards out of these collectors' hands.
did anybody explain why light blue was only a 2015 thing? Like, did you get into that with anybody or no? I mean, I'm curious. I think there was light blue and select that year also.
Th-
It
there
wasn't
was
just
there was light blue and select. Do I know why? No.
yeah.
Does that matter?
I mean, it depends. If you're creative storytelling, you can make the light blue a real rarity and say,
Right.
this is the only year you can get it. You want a gold, there's golds 15 through, you can make an argument that there's now half as many golds as there are light blues across all years,
For
and
sure. They
I'm
they
not against
just
doing
brought
it.
light blue back, Cage,
Uh-huh.
in football. Like you have light blue with
Mhm.
Herbert, but I think it's not numbered. I'm not sure. I'm not positive.
Interesting.
I mean, it's Kobe's. You could also storytell. 2015 is Kobe's last year. I always
Yeah.
thought that was kind of cool. Um,
No, it's
oh,
listen. I like the Jokic market, and obviously, at evaluation of like what we offered at 1400, something like that. 1400, 1500 was people were offering the light blue nine.
Light blue 9 2K, and then the silver 8 for 450.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, you look the last couple of sales on the PSA 9 light blue, right? That's
Yeah, a
significantly
month
higher
ago.
than the last few.
Yeah. The
I mean,
Jokic market's weird because it doesn't sell often. So if you go direct comp, like you go PSA 9, for
mhm.
example, even if you go PSA 9 of the silver, last PSA 9 sold for, 700. But an auction just ended for a BGS 9.5 with a mint gem for 1,200 yesterday. So there's not that much supply, you have to actually compare across grades. You're not just going to be able to get it right on the last comp like you can with
Right.
more liquid cards.
All right. I
Like
mean, I think two,
one blue has sold in the last month.
the
Two
light blue.
tens, yeah, two tens have sold in the last year. Two
All
light blue
right.
tens have sold in the last year
Looks like three since December 27th,
of
right?
the
So is
10
that of the nine that you're looking
of
at,
the
the light
9.
blue nine? 1400, 1500, 1431. 2 grand seems a little high on that.
I agree.
There was also a 9.5 that sold, I think, in December for like 1500 also. But I like the card. I like the
Would you go PSA 9 or BGS 9.5
I,
on it?
I,
Would
for
you
the same
even
price. I
buy
go
it?
nine
You
five.
didn't even go this route. Would you even
For the
buy the
same price, I go
Jokic
nine
card?
five.
I was expecting you to say the time to buy Jokic was in June. Now's the time to buy baseball.
I
That's
mean,
what I thought you were going to say.
here's the thing: you like Jokic. Would I buy Jokic? No, right? One, because if you look at his name, I
You don't
mean,
like
you
anybody.
you could say Jokic,
You
and
don't
I
like
wouldn't.
anybody.
But yeah, I like you. When the
You like
cards come out of
Devontae
you,
Graham.
I'm gonna buy the light blue parallel of you when it comes out.
But no,
100%.
I'm not.
100%.
You like Devontae
I like
Graham.
Michael Jordan.
That
I
was your
like
fun
Michael
prop.
Jordan cards. I
Yeah, but
mean, in
he's not playing right now.
2022, I spent $300,000 on LeBron cards. I know I don't buy anything, and
You
then wound
don't
up
like
losing money.
LeBron.
And I
I
don't like
didn't. You
LeBron.
don't like.
Yeah, I don't
So
like
don't. You're
LeBron. Although I'm liking better. I'm liking this team better. I'm
because
liking
they
the
won one
LeBron.
game.
No, it's how they won it and how they were able to, with the depth they brought in, kind of rest AD and rest LeBron. They both played 26 minutes in that game. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see. It's kind of what you were talking about. Adding depth matters in these
One of
trades.
my best takes we haven't even discussed, and how I said Jaren Jackson Jr. is so crucial to this Grizzlies team. How he's 20 years old. How he has such a bright future. He's basically the core to their team. Hasn't even been discussed. We don't
Yeah,
have to go there.
he is a core. He's good on the team. I like Ja's new hair too. That is another thing I like. I don't know if I'm going to buy
Man,
cards. Listen,
they love to
Jokic,
chat shit, that team.
they do. That's that should be. I mean, they were your favorite team for a while, but you don't like. You like when they talk shit and no one's listening and they sneak up on you. Once they're there and they've announced it and they talk shit, once they've already been good and they start talking, you're like, no, I'm moving on. When Dort and Giddy start talking shit, that's gonna be forget it. You're not gonna know what to do with yourself.
I like. So I actually
Hundred
was
percent.
sitting outside and I was thinking about like the word likability. You know how some people are just very likable and some aren't.
Yeah,
I
like
was, I
me
was
and you.
literally Damon Westbrook.
Oh,
Damon Westbrook is actually what I thought. Saw the
yeah.
clip and I got into like this like existential crisis for a few minutes because by all measures, Russ Westbrook has had a better career than Dame by like
Oh,
a
sure.
mile and a half. It's not even close. But if
Yep.
you polled people and they probably heard that, they're like even
They're
shocked
like, no
because of
way.
how well liked Dame is
He
and
is.
how disliked Westbrook is. And I was like, man, so much like we think about like likability or charisma as kind of this natural giftedness, but maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. Maybe it's a skill like anything else, and you just have to understand kind of that world that you're playing in. So I was actually thinking a lot about likability.
I mean, it's valid. Joker, listen, he's got the likability.
Do you want to hear
The
my
I
opening
like
statement on Joker? Why I want it? Cage
I
is a
like the Joker
lawyer.
buy.
You could see
I like the
he
Joker.
hasn't practiced in so long. He doesn't even ask questions. Andrew, why the Joker? Why now? Why
I
didn't you
know
buy him
why.
last? Why?
I know why. So please give me your opening statement on the
Okay.
Joker.
So for me, we all know those things about his, triple doubles, how he makes his team better, double MVP, all that stuff. Priced in. What did it for me was yesterday's game against the Cavs. And here's why I'll explain it. This was the cherry on the top that convinced me this is the team
One
that's
game.
coming up
You
the
watch
best.
one game. You watch one game. One game. They win one game, and yet after one game.
So if you guys know, right before the All-Star break, Cavs traveled to the Sixers to play a match. Got blown out. It got close at the end, but it was a blowout the whole match. So you have the All-Star break, and after the All-Star break, you don't really have a lot of time. It's basically the teams that are contenders, the teams that are pretenders. No one's taking it easy anymore, and seeding matters. So you're parity. So this is a game this Cavs team was ready for, man. Mobley came out the gate. I think he had 20 points in the first half, shooting threes. Mobley was playing incredible. That whole team was playing incredible. And even there, without Aaron Gordon, Cage, after the All-Star break, with a hobbled Murray on the road versus a motivated Cavs team, they came out and they showed me a ton of resilience. And what it showed me is this team understands that it's no longer about Jokic getting individual awards. We need to find ways to win. It's not about my stats. This is our year. So for me, that plus Reggie Jackson is going to be a really interesting piece for them that could get them buckets for the 10, 12 minutes a game that Jokic is going to be sitting on the bench or Murray's going to be on the bench.
That B team, we talked about that. That little end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, where Jokic's lead evaporates because the B team wasn't doing so good.
Correct. And it could be a 30-30 game where Reggie Jackson takes it 30. It's going to be 38-32 by the time Jokic comes back in.
I mean, I like the Joker buy. The dude's grown on me. My thing is still the same though, right? Big men don't get much hobby love, just the way it is. I'm sorry.
He's not a big man,
you can
He's
see
physically
the
a
ceiling.
big man.
You see the ceiling on it, right? I mean, he's now breaking out of that ceiling. I mean, Olajuwon had a stretch where it was MVP, championships, multiple final runs, which Jokic hasn't had that finals, hasn't had the championships that were won by Houston. When Jordan departed there, he has the numbers. He has the triple double, all that crazy defensive player, offensive player, you name it. He doesn't have a triple double. That's right.
But that's not the right comp. Like Jokic's game is much more similar to like. You really compare him to Olajuwon?
Yeah, the game is irrelevant. It's hobby.
Hobby doesn't have a rule that we're not going to buy guys who are over 7 feet tall. What the hobby really says is we don't like guys who are boring or who play down low.
That's part. We talked about that, but it's because the longevity of the centers. Like they could be great. They're great for a set amount of time. They're never going to be the player that is exciting. They're never going to be the player that is a career or generational, awesomeness for that amount of time.
Do you watch Jokic? He doesn't play like that at all. He plays closer to a LeBron. He takes the ball up the court. He makes these incredible.
We've talked about this. I get it. He plays.
Let me actually give you a different comment.
The point.
I would actually say he's closer to a Larry Bird. I would say he's closer to a Larry Bird.
Okay. And Bird was a great player who also is collected not as much as other folks. Top 10 player. But I understand exactly what you're saying, man. I guess the point that I'm trying to make that you've cut me off a couple times in this episode. Hopefully the comments are now defending me instead of you. But we have some, the difference is big men have a difficult time doing it for the long term. Now, don't make that a sexual reference, folks listening, right? Big men can handle their business for a long term also. But in basketball, big men usually don't have the length of career. Sure, there are exceptions. Shaq played for a long time and had a longer prime. Olajuwon, sure. Patrick Ewing, Dave Robinson, Will Chamberlain. You really have to be somebody who has not just a difference in the style of play, which, yes, Joker has. You're making an argument that I'm not arguing against, which is something you do often. I'll grant you, he's more Luka. He's more Larry Bird. He's more James Harden in a 7-footer. He's more whatever you want to say. That's irrelevant. I'm not trying to say he plays like a point guard, so he should be collected like a point guard. The hobby does have a block. Now, Jokic, it's different. He's now played at an MVP level for 3 years. That's the argument you should be making. Not that his game is more like Larry Bird or his game is more like somebody else. It's that no matter what big man you try to compare him to, no big man has won 3 MVPs in a row. No big man has played at this level. That leaves him with one hurdle, where if you want to compare him to Olajuwon or Bird.
He has to get a quadruple double.
Quadruple double for Olajuwon. He has to win. That's going to be the big one. He's got to win. And if your bet now is that his team can win with Reggie Jackson, he can win, great. He wins 3 MVPs and actually then starts winning championships. The whole I don't collect big men thing is going to evaporate. Not because he plays a different style, because he's
What's
been real
his
successful.
ceiling on a PSA 10 like blue if he wins a championship this year?
Well, the card is currently valued at $1,431 based on the
PSA
last
10,
sale.
it's 6K.
PSA 10 is 5,000 to change according to the ladder, five and change. So 6K you could probably buy one for. What's the ceiling on a light blue? If he wins the championship this year, probably the exact same price. Only reason
Then
is because
then
one
now's not the
champ.
time to buy him.
So the I'm not. I don't want to make you angry, but what's
Why
funny
would I
about it
get
is
angry? It's my money. I could do whatever
the
I
the
want with it.
reason
You're not my
why
dad. I can do
you
whatever I want.
the research you're doing now should lead you to the conclusion that I just had. Jokic's cards are already hard to get. They're already priced high.
Okay.
$5,000 for a light blue out of 199. There's 19, 21, whatever there are. That's a lot of money for a light blue, right? That's $6,000 you're saying. And the reason why
At
is
one point, you
because,
were going to buy a Giannis for 20, and I apologize for cutting you off.
again, but it's okay. Yes, a different time in the hobby, a
Okay.
very different time in the hobby. But I didn't buy it. Why? Because I don't buy big men. Because even though Giannis is a freak, and even though he's a defensive player of the year and won a championship, they do not have prolonged periods. They have nagging injuries. They have difficulty. Giannis is a great example for you to bring up because as flying high as he was, and as you made a comparison that he's going to be the next great player because he was different than all the other big men, all of a sudden now Giannis is a forgotten Greek freak. He had a Disney show, and now he's just somebody that nobody's buying. Now he wins a
Do
championship
you
again.
feel? Do you feel
Yep.
that Jokic has had the similar run up that Giannis did from 2013 to
No, I
2018?
don't know too many Giannis. There are people who collect Giannis. We had like Rips on and the whole deal, but you have found that there are Jokic super collectors. You've found that there are people who buy Jokic and hoard Jokic, right? They respect him,
Certainly
they love
feels
his
that
game,
way.
they're buying. That is the reason also, I believe, that it would be difficult for those cards to also fly in price.
Very, very true.
Unless unless three or four of yous come in, you, not the two youths, and say, you know what? I have to have his stuff. I have to buy his cards. And you buy it at 6. And the next you a month from now who sees Reggie Jackson playing and says, shit, they're going to win a championship, has to buy it at 7 to get in. And then
What
when they win the
causes the
championship,
me to come in? What kind of FOMO obviously, but like
well,
what causes
well,
me's
what
to come
caused
into
you to
that?
come in? You tell me. What caused you to come
Well,
in?
I think
It
you
was
were
one
what
game.
you I think what you meant by use is you meant kind of like investors, not super collectors. I think
Other
the
people to come
underlying.
in, exactly. People who just want to add a Jokic to their collection instead of hoard Jokic cards or only be a Jokic collector. Definitely.
So
And make it more
we
of a
have rules
mainstream
of
buy.
so we have rules of thumb, but I think we should always still question them. I don't think we should just take them as fact. Do you think a championship would actually you'd have that first championship drop off, or do you think a championship causes some me's saying maybe it's time to get a Jokic in my collection?
I
Three
think
MVPs and a championship is a
if he
lot.
wins this year, I think there is a slight bump on certain cards, definitely. Because the knock on Jokic has always been the same. It's he could be an MVP every year if they want to give it to him for the last couple of years, but that team is not ever going to win a championship. And in cards, championship matters.
It's in
It's a
NBA.
huge
It's
thing.
only rings culture.
So you get one,
Last
it's huge.
question.
One might not be enough. Look at Giannis.
Giannis had a significant run up before where I think Jokic might not have. But I think, first off, this is such a valuable debate because you could take out Jokic card, and sub in millions of other players. You could
Yep.
talk about Soto Tatis,
Yep.
right? You could talk
Yeah.
about so many different guys here.
Talk
You
about
could talk
Josh
about
Allen because he could have been in the same exact spot. People talk about how he played at a great level. He's improved every single year. Josh Allen's cards. I think he's got some light blues somewhere. And there were
Stroud.
people who were banking on Josh Allen this year being the year where not only is he going to play at MVP. Now, I'm not comparing Josh Allen to Jokic. Jokic already has the personal hardware, and Josh Allen's never done that. But it is a quarterback that people were banking on team and individual championship success this year. And you see what happens with his cards. Herbert is another, much younger.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of like another quarterback that kind of fits into that window. Lamar won an MVP. You know what I mean? Lamar is an MVP winner who has never won yet. And, look at what his cards are like now. So,
This question.
I like this.
2015, for whatever reason, was an interesting year in Panini's release schedule, where for whatever reason you have 199 blue, you got orange wave, you got gold, but you have, I would say, 1/10 of the available supply for Jokic compared to 2017 and on. In addition, you have his NT, which is just that he has one NT. He doesn't have all of these different parallels like Luca does, horizontal, vertical, flawless. So you have a much more scarce,
Yep.
rare
Yep.
pool of cards that you could go after. Does that play
Yep.
into your consideration at all?
Yeah. I mean, it. By the way, it's why I picked the silver, right? Because you know the 10 is the 10, right? You
Okay.
know the silver is the silver. And my rationale is, hey, when are more people going to come in? When are the more U's going to come in? And we've now clarified what I meant by the two Utes. That
Yeah.
it's people who are not Joker super collectors. It's not people who are looking to hoard his stuff. It's people who are going to come in and try to invest and add a Joker to their PC
Yep.
after it looks like he might win or when he wins. I think those people are more likely not going to do the work that you did. They're not going to look at a light blue, and even if they do look at the light blue, I think those people are going to fall on, all right, do I really want a light blue? No one else is buying light blues. Light blues don't fit in my collection. I don't have a Luca light blue. I don't have a light blue of Zion. Why do I get a
They
light
just
blue? I
won't be
have a
able to find a
silver,
light blue, frankly.
and maybe, but I don't even think they're going to look. And then they're going to say, all right, even if I can find one, is it 9? Or let me just buy the silver and buy the silver in PSA 10. And even though there's more of them, I believe that the retail investor that you're going to need to come in to raise the price of Jokic cards, that they'll look for the silver. It's just, I could be wrong, but that's just my thought process.
So here's where I actually ended up.
Mhm.
I think when it comes to investing, especially short term,
Mhm.
less ambiguity makes it for easier to exit. And there's nothing that's less ambiguous than a PSA 10.
Yep.
Now, don't put a PSA 9 in there because that's very ambiguous. PSA 9s, how's the corner? Maybe I cross it. Is this in my PSA 9 is very ambiguous. BGS 9.5 is ambiguous. PSA 10 is the non ambiguous card that when there's a run, that's the card that runs.
Yep.
You see that now with the Mahomes. Mahomes
Yep.
Prism PSA 10 is running, the 9 is not. So I was actually thinking you buy both. You buy both with the idea that if what you think happens, you have the 10 as your investment. And when the event, if it happens, it happens. That's when you take profits, sell the 10, and now you might have a cost basis on your 9 and the 8 that you could keep in your collection. You could crack, you could do the 90s card collector, take it out and just put it in a one mag. And your cost basis is now, instead of 2,000, maybe it's 1,200, maybe it's $1,000. Maybe you did really well on the silver and you're basically sitting on free inventory.
Love it. And guys, it doesn't have to be Joker, but this is a good episode, man.
With nearly 40 years as the most trusted resource for collectors, dating back to the first Beckett magazine in 1984, Beckett has been the brand that bridges generations of the hobby. We're happy to be partnering with Beckett and look forward to keeping you all updated on the big things happening at the company in 2023. Beckett, it's the name you know and the name you can trust.